Okay, I feel like I should make a video about Ozzy Osbourne and Dido. I haven't spoken about Ozzy Osbourne, because I used to watch the reality show, like not massively, but it was a long time ago when I was younger. I used to watch it, and it kind of gave me a bit comfort to know that not everyone's family is perfect, and that there's a lot of fighting and arguing. There was always fighting and arguing in my family. My parents never could have a conversation. They never spoke to each other, but when they did, it was usually just screaming, and that was basically all my childhood was, and my adulthood and everything. Because after going to uni, I couldn't afford rent because house prices in London were very expensive, so I had to live in my parents' flat. And I know a lot of people would probably rather be homeless than do that. But I put up with the screaming and shouting just because I didn't want to be homeless. So I don't actually feel sorry for homeless people, because this is one of the reasons why I don't feel sorry for homeless people, because homeless people come from bad families, and so did I, and I still put up with it. So it makes me feel like I can't feel sympathy for people that are homeless, because unless they were homeless by literally being kicked out, but often when they were kicked out, it's usually because they've done something that their parents don't like them for. It's difficult. If you're screaming at your parents, and of course they're going to kick you out. I never screamed at my parents; they were just screaming at each other, but they mostly never really spoke. Like my dad's autistic a bit, so doesn't really talk much. But you know, I had respect for the family. I guess that's just how I say it. I know that he's gone through drug problems, and I had a strong vision today of medieval. I'm interested in. I go to a lot of national trusts and castles and stuff like this. When my parents were National Trust members, and they used to always just go from National Trust place to and English Heritage as well. We've been members of both when I was younger, and I've been to a lot of them. And I used to love going into the basements because you can try and like imagine, who was living there or who stayed here. And during the wars, there was lots of different wars. I think there was a sense of friendlier community. My own honest opinion, but even though the medieval ages were kind of all sick and disgusting, I felt like there was a sense of friendliness towards each other, which is not something I sense in this world. I feel like in this world it's all about fake love, falsities, making yourself look good. Whereas back, because you had like cameras and stuff, if you screw up in this world, it can get all over the news and everyone knows about what you've done. If you make yourself look bad in this world, it's not just your town or village that knows you for doing wrong. It's the whole world. It can be. So, in a way it's worse, but yeah, I don't know. It was bad though, because occasionally they did have captors. Occasionally they did put their captors in prison, and you know, it didn't take long to die, because freezing cold cell, tiny blanket, it's awful. And I just have a feeling like I think Ozzy Osbourne might have been someone who's gone through some of that. And I don't think it was a quick death. So I feel like if I was trying to like pick up on his past, that's what my guess would be. And then I think he had a different life, from a rich person in sort of halfway in between, where he did achieve lots, but that sense of loneliness, I feel like extends from that medieval life. He might have even had two or three in between. I don't know. That's all I picked up on. But yeah, I feel like now with these, with modern day, you can get drugs and alcohol that can kind of cure any depression that you might have. A lot of people have inner depression from past life experiences, and with alcohol and you know drugs being available, and if you're rich, abusing them is easy when you've got subconscious issues, I guess is the word. And I feel like that's kind of what's happened to him. And I do feel a bit sorry for him because of um, how he has been recently. But yeah, I think he's the angel. I was thinking about him yesterday, which is strange because I don't really know why I was thinking about him. But he popped in my mind when I was cycling. Actually, and there's also one other one that I need to look at. But there's so that he came into my mind, and I was kind of thinking, well, he's definitely an Angel of Birmingham. That would be a positive name. But is there anything more to him? I haven't listened to his songs or anything, and yeah, I think it is. Angel of the Prisoners. And I feel like it's weird because he has popped in my mind and I've added him to Instagram only in the last 2 or 3 days. And it's ever since this thing with R. Kelly has been bothering me, you know. I usually don't feel sympathy for people in prison because they're in prison for a reason. You know, I get that. Um, you can agree with the justice system until, of course, you maybe have an accident, maybe you have 2 or 3 drinks, you drive at 60 miles on a 50-mile road, and then you kill someone, and then you end up in prison because of speed limiting when really it was just 10 miles over. You only had 1 or 2 drinks, like many people drive on, you know. And then when you find yourself being in prison, losing your freedom and everything for something that you think is unjustified, you know, I felt like what happened with my sister's child, you know, I think it's unjustified. They took me to court. I have no idea why they took me to court. If the plan was to never let me have this child, why would they even take me to court? You know, I'm trying to think about it, and it just feeling about the feeling of injustice that I felt in that court, where it, you know, it seemed like they were on my side. It seemed like they were positive, that the woman who was speaking for the social services didn't know anything about the case, and you know, the judges kind of indicated that they didn't see anything wrong, and then he just went silent and read something on a piece of paper, and then said something that didn't really make any sense, which was just like, looking at all the things that we've discussed, you know, I think it's best that the child is not with you. And I was just like, well, what did we discuss? You said we discussed something. You didn't discuss something. You just went silent for 2 minutes, and I don't know, but I got a feeling that he was either blackmailed or the social service man guy person said that I think I'm Christ and that I'm crazy. You know, I don't know what he wrote on that form, but they didn't read it out. They didn't give me a justified reason as to why I can't have the child. I think they did say that they don't think I can have the child because of the things mentioned in that original form, that this woman who doesn't know anything about me gave me a 1 hour report. You know, what had a 1 hour interview with me and then gave me a bunch of rubbish saying that I'm not interested. You know, I don't know, but on one hand, I feel like that court was set up just so that they can justify their actions. Social service, I felt like maybe not. I didn't feel like this then because I kind of thought that I was going to go on to Big Brother. I kind of thought the elites were behind this, that maybe they paid him. You know, I was thinking so many different possibilities, and I didn't know. But now I'm wondering, you know, did the elites know, or was this just a bit of more money grab because, you know, the governments pay for these courts. I didn't pay for it, so the governments are paying for the people in that room, or the judge, and you know, they're paying for the fees of these and to discuss it. You know, they're maybe they, you know, social services have set up some injustice system where they can do whatever they want, take children and just, you know, they have to take it to court because otherwise, you know, social services can be taken to court for doing something against the law. So they set up some fake justice system where they pretend that they're doing what's best for the interests of the child when really they're just trying to set up some system to make it look like they're doing what's best for the child just so they can make money. I mean, I feel like I didn't think that at the time because of all the stuff that's going on in my life. But now that I'm thinking back, I'm like, well, if there wasn't a group of elite people telling them not to, you know, not to give me the child, then why would it even go to court in the first place? I don't know, but I felt like I felt like the court was a big injustice system where I couldn't speak up, where I couldn't say anything against them, and I can't take social services to the police or to the courts because it was decided by the courts that the child shouldn't go to me, even though it didn't make any sense why the child shouldn't. So I felt huge amount of injustice over that courtroom. Now that's just a small example. The child was taken away from me. I don't know the reason. He just shut up. He read something in his head, and then the verdict was written, and I don't understand. I feel that was very unjust, and I can't go to any court because it was a court that made this. So I would be taking the court to court, you know. And I feel like there's so many people in prison that feel the same way. Like maybe R. Kelly, you know, I'm sure he probably did some crappy, disgusting things, but I'm sure he also gave those women, you know, a nice home and things to nice shoes or whatever, you know. I bought them some shoes and they go and stay there and lock them in a basement. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, I don't know. He bought them stuff. He's given them like rent is expensive to live in a house in a nice house. it's expensive, and to get all that rent free just for, I don't know, having sex with him once a week or something, that's not bad payment, and but I feel like the people aren't actually interested in the real suffering that people go through. If they are interested in the real suffering that they go through, they should think about how much suffering people in prison might be feeling if they feel they're in prison for unjustified reasons, or if they don't feel that they belong in there. If you're genuinely locked up in prison and you don't believe that you belong in there, what's that going to do to your mind? It's going to make you hate people. It's going to make you turn into a psychopath. It's going to make you worse. You're going to come out of prison worse, more angry, more furious with people, more rage, feeling more rage with people. And if there's a whole bunch of people that are happy to ignore me for 10 years whilst they just make songs about me and not care about me, I mean, I could hate them, but maybe like this vision that I got of Ozzy, maybe he went through what I went through, being locked up in a medieval prison for 3 or 4 years, just left to rot, and given just enough food to survive. You don't know someone's story, and something like that changes a person. It really does change a person. It makes them cold. It makes them heartless. It turns them into psychopaths. And there's lots of these people. Psychopaths are created. They're created through torment, and a lot of people have gone through. Now it's different because when you're living your first life, you're not very smart. You're not very aware of what's right and what's wrong. You know, like I think it's wrong to keep birds in cages, but I have actually seen loads of birds that deliberately, fly into a cage knowing that they're probably going to be locked up for another 24 or 2 or 3 days, and when they come out, they fly around for a few hours, and then they go back in and they're happy in there. So there's different intelligence levels. Some birds are happy to be in a cage for a small time. I don't let this hamster out because it doesn't seem to want to do anything. I let it out the cage and it just goes into the corner of the room. And likewise, when you're living your first and second lives and third lives, being locked up in a horrible jail cell, you know, that might actually be better than living in a cave. If you have one life as living in a cave and then you have another life in a medieval castle in a dungeon, okay, it's not very nice, but it might be slightly better than what you were used to before. And in your life before that, you would have been animals and living in caves and hiding from the world, hiding from people. Sometimes a prison can be safe, so that there's good and bad and everything. But it's an evolution stage. It's an evolution process. There are things that are horrific, but if you are living your first life, it's not that bad. Why? Because you're actually comparing it to your past life as an animal. And you think of all the bad that's going on in your life. I have a shitty house, I can't afford rent, I don't know how to get a job, maybe I'm just sitting selling stuff on the streets and poor. But at the same time, you might be thinking, well, at least I can speak, well, at least I have English language, and I think it's still suffering that is beyond explainable. Like, it shouldn't happen. People shouldn't be extremely poor, but there is a process. And yeah, so if people have gone through awful lives in their past, their minds would be slightly different to how they are now. Different intelligence levels according to how many lives you've had. So I can say that he was in a medieval prison for years, but that would be awful for someone who's far more developed, because you'd be like, oh my gosh, I definitely don't want to do that. But at the same time, if you're less developed, then it's then it's it might be better than the life before that, where they might have been a cave woman. I think a lot of the singers were born in the first three generations, so they would have once been a caveman, and all you would have had was like one or two weapons, and then suddenly it's like, wow, I've got a pot. Okay, I have nothing else, but I've learned how to make a pot. Isn't this amazing? And then suddenly in your next life, oh, a pot. I don't want a pot. I want a house. I want and then you start wanting more and more, and it's just the evolution of souls and stuff. But yeah, that's Angel of the Prison is a good title, because we've had Angel of the Prison, but it's prisoners, so it's different. So it's like Janet Jackson, but Janet Jackson is like something looking after Earth being a prison, whereas this is more he's more like of the prisoners. So the people, he's thinking more about the actual people inside the prison, and I feel like a lot of his inspiration came from actually being in a prison, and stuff like that. You know, it triggers deep emotions you won't remember, but subconsciously you will. And I think he's a better person. I mean, if you go through a prison experience, you do become a better person because you can understand suffering a lot more than if you never. Like I haven't really thought about prisons, you know, and now that R. Kelly's in there, and I feel it's unjust. I feel like I am thinking about it, and it's weird how I've only just started watching Ozzy Osbourne's songs. I haven't really listened to his songs for like 10 years, and it has come into my mind ever since I've been thinking about R. Kelly in prison. So it's interesting how I found him. I found him at the right time. Let's just say that. Yeah. Do I think R. Kelly should be freed straight away? No, he can stay in there for a little while. I feel like I'm in prison, and I would like to get out. Um, but if you're not going to let me out, then why let anyone else out? Like that, like I'm feeling cold, you know, I'm feeling really cold because I feel people are being cold to me, and they've been cold to me for a very, very long time. You know, you might be having a horrible life or a horrible experience, but at least you don't have the whole world ganging up on you, writing songs about through time and space. And okay, I love the songs, but I feel like I'm going crazy. You know, I'm literally having conversations with songs that were written like 20, 30 years ago, even though I haven't listened to the songs once in that time. And I can name something, like an angel name can come into my head, even though I know nothing about their songs. Like I know Dido did one with Eminem, and it's strange how I haven't actually bothered to find that song yet. Um, and it also says "die" in her name, which is obvious. But you know, I was thinking yesterday when I was thinking of Ozzy Osbourne, is he Angel of the Grave? Like I literally know nothing about his songs. I know he did one with his daughter, which I really liked, and has disappeared. And yeah, now that I've listened to the words of that, it's like, yeah, I know why that's disappeared. Probably because he didn't want his daughter to die. But it's not about his daughter. It's him being, you know, angel of the prisoners, and him letting his baby go because his baby are the prisoners, and whether they let go, as in just don't have to be in prison any longer, and can come out of a literal prison, or whether they go into, as in a die. And well, Dido, I don't know how I've come across Dido's. I've come across Dido's songs before actually, but I could never quite understand what they were about. I think the answer was because I have listened to a few of them, and I couldn't figure out. I didn't think there was a name, but I feel like now that I'm extremely angry, you know, I want people in a grave because I'm so angry that they've ignored me for this long. I'm so angry that I just feel like I'm in bed all the time. I wanted to get out of bed today, and my big computer where I was going to do some more cards and finish off the cards angel names that I'm doing on Facebook. Yeah, I was going to do that, but I'm in a warm bed and my computer's downstairs and I can't bother to get up. But yeah, it was interesting how I on a day that I've been trying to get out of bed all day, I happened to come across Angel of a nice warm bed, e.g. grave. But yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm feeling very depressed, and I don't feel sorry for people because I don't feel like people feel sorry for me, and I feel, you know, all these songs. How many singers have written a song apologizing to me for what they're doing? None. There was Justin Bieber that had, you know, that sorry that actually just seemed like more of a mockery than anything. Um, and yeah, I didn't know. I don't know why people are doing what they're doing because they don't seem to be. Their songs are not aimed to help me. They're aimed at the public. They're aimed at the viewer who watches them, and a lot of them are also aimed at me too. But it feels like they're having a conversation with me, conversation that only I'm going to understand because only I'm going to hear what their angel name is, and then it's just it's very bizarre. And I feel like I'm caught up, you know. On one hand, I feel like huge numbers of people need to die, um, and on the other hand, I just want everyone to die. Like I just don't want to be here. I don't feel like humans are human. I feel like I'm in some sort of matrix, and all sorts of possibilities are coming into my head, including the possibility that maybe humans are just trying to piss me off because they want to end the world and go into the Matrix.